Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to new Patreon who didn't get a shout out as a new Patreon when I did the shout outs yesterday. So, new Patreon, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, JMels24, Yuya Namento, M, Iron26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive, huge thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Good luck with that. Doesn't it fall outside the scientific method?
Oh, fuck yeah, it does. I thought it was hilarious when I heard it.
Oh, I didn't capture what you said. What did you say?
There's a baller that's claiming or telling everyone that he wants to invent or create a scientific experiment to prove it's a globe to us simpleton flat earthers, you know?
What? To prove it's a globe? That's a concrete noun. If it were true, it's not a cause and effect relationship. How is he going to validate that with systematic experimentation? Vary the cause of a concrete noun? What's he talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I posted in his YouTube video he made. I said, well, good luck with varying the how, why of what is, you abject moron.
Yeah, that's just stupid. I mean, when someone says something like that, they feel like their bravado is like going to win them over because people don't understand. Because they don't understand. Because if they did, they wouldn't say, I can show the cause of tree. You're like, tree? Tree isn't something happening. You know, boiling water, that's something happening. Tree, that's a concrete noun. If you're going to say sphere Earth, that's a concrete noun. What's happening? Nothing's happening. So it's not inside the remit of scientific discovery in any way, shape or form, demonstrating admirably that he doesn't understand what science actually is.
that's my setup question for people. I ask them that question. Can you prove the globe scientifically? When they say yeah, then you know that they really don't know what science is. I learned that here.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. You're just going to ask them, do you have scientific evidence for a globe? And if they say yeah, you know they don't know what science is.
Exactly.
Yeah, just sit back, get your popcorn pretty much. It's gonna be a show.
That's the outrage of the whole Jaren and Bob and the whole Globebusters crew thing. It's like, basically, they've got a little magic trick that they've learned to utilise from the ballers. Say science after any claim, and the majority of the audience will believe what you're saying has been empirically validated, because it's been trained into them since a very early age. And we come along and start pointing out where science isn't just proving what you say because you say science after a sentence that you claim is true. And they don't like it. They want to shut us down. So they're literally telling their audience they don't know what it is to say science proves, science doesn't prove. Like, oh really? No, you and your side of this discussion in Flat Earth have used the magic trick that deceived the masses into thinking they were on a ball by saying science proved it. And you're using that exact same magic trick with your rhetoric. Therefore, we are a threat. So their attacks on us, or me, are done out of fear.
Yeah, and speaking of attacks, like in the after show, um, we were Adam was trying to get Anthony on board with making a response video, uh, and like Adam wasn't, I think, was appealing to Tony's dislike of Bob to get it done. But I think it would be a good idea to make a video that's based on the history of flat Earth from this perspective.
I agree. The more on this, the better.
Right. Well, included in that story would be Dave Weiss's attempts to censor my pointing out to Bob where he's using this magic trick. Because that's what he tried to do. Tried to get me to remove Bob Nodell's toe tag. Toe tag being him using the magic trick of science, me pointing out where science is applicable and how it isn't applicable to his claims. Well, that needed to be taken down. I was pestered over it, which is why I've kind of compounded why I'm so furious in this instance. Like, what, when the tables are turned and I'm being called a scammer and you guys are all, grouping together to outdo us and upstage us because we say science proves things when you say the exact same thing? It's like, this is an outrage.
Well, yeah, but there's a really interesting story in there, and it's history now, like from the beginning of flat Earth to now, how much, I guess, how there's pretty much been a religion develop in flat Earth that we've labeled the Ethereans, but that religion it's made this whole thing a little bit more interesting. I can say that. Not in a good way.
But it's been vomited up from the Feast of Nonsense. It's not like these people have come up with this stuff.
Yeah, they never left the table. See, we all left the table of the Feast of Nonsense. But Nathan, getting back to that, David Weiss wanted you to take down a toe tag on Bob? Really?
Yeah.
Has he asked Jaron anything about taking down what he said about you?
I don't know. He was on a debate show designed to upstage us and declared to an audience as an influencer that he doesn't watch, or we don't watch at all. So, you draw your own conclusions from that. He wasn't defending me. He's trying to upstage me. Trying to outperform us in debate. Look, we are better than them, the science scammers. Here's how you really do it. Featuring Dave Weiss, telling his audience basically not to watch. All right, okay. No worries. It's not like I make a living from doing this or anything.
Hey, John, this is like the Alabama football team, the freshmen taking on the seniors. Are you joking me? Do you realize what would happen? Or like a college team going to play a professional Super Bowl winning team? Are you joking me? That's what you got? Oh my goodness.
Well, I don't know if it'd be more like the Denver Broncos playing the South Park Cows.
I didn't want to make it that bad. I wanted to give them a little something, because they did ask about the clouds, and they did ask some. Well, they didn't ask anything. Let's be for real. They're numpties. Just the fact that debate went on for that long tells you they don't have a freaking clue. Because if that guy was on this show, it would have been over in 20 seconds flat.
Yeah, he would have been triggered in like 15, 20 seconds, to the point that he would have lost all reasonable faculty and started, trying to shut down conversation.
Yeah, Rumpus. It would have been a 4-hour abuse show.
I don't think so. He knows who we are. Did he come here? No. He assessed the scenario. Got to give him props for that. Yeah, very wise. You don't want to come and debate us, even though you're mentioning him on Jaron Show. Right, that'd be me. Or Flat Earth Debate. Well, that's very sensible, right? Put some of the questions that maybe might be able to be answered by him here, probably not, to the people who are far more inferior in debate. So pick your targets. That target in that instance has got a wider reach as well. So from my perspective, if I was him, what would you pick? Smaller audience, more difficult debate. Larger audience, easier debate. Which one would be more appealing?
Yeah, it was a good move by him. Very good move.
Yeah, the guy doesn't
But
strike me as
there's
dumb.
there's still something to be said about him watching and not challenging. I mean, come on now. We're just dumb old flat earthers. Come and get it.
But he's not dumb. That's what Nathan's saying. He's picking and choosing his opponents wisely.
Right, well, he won, didn't he? Let's be honest. What they offered up was alternatives to all of his claims. Now, it's not difficult to win on account of the fact that he's got the Western world behind him, and all he's got to do is affirm the position concisely enough for the audience to understand, and he's won, so long as they don't take it apart, and they didn't. Therefore, he won. They also were on the receiving end of their own claims being ripped apart by him. The alternatives that they offered up that didn't debunk flat Earth, that debunked globe Earth, they didn't. Usefulness was on a very low scale, but they presented them as alternatives and then had them ripped to shreds also. So wouldn't you say he picked extremely well? Picked a subject he understood, knew what they'd be claiming, took their claims apart systematically, reaffirmed the globe Earth claim, didn't have it debunked. That's a win-win-win.
Oh yeah, he dominated. I seen that right away from watching it. Like the part that really got me, and Neil's brought it up a few times, is where he said, "You're just trying to replace gravity with your electrostatics nonsense," and then he went on to explain how it was nonsense. That was just like, I mean, you can't do it no better than that.
Right. They offered a claim, electrostatic dicoherent, incoherent, whatever they call it, and he said no. Here's how my no. Not no, we'll agree to disagree, or no, I can offer an alternative. No, here's how your claim fails.
Right. And the only thing every time they got crushed, they said, we'll agree to disagree, and moved on.
Correct. And that's what bothered me too. And the fact that they gave him the last word and were proud of it. Go ahead, you got the last word, buddy.
They had to give him the last word. He won.
Absolutely.
That's what happens.
No, that's how it should be. I mean, what they're praising themselves is their cordiality, if that's the right word. They're being cordial.
Yep.
Right. So, okay. From that perspective, I could turn around and go, you know what, guys? You're right. I could learn a thing or two about being conciliatory with my opponents. I do talk about teabagging a fair bit. But on the other hand, I win. So who gives a shit how I treat them when they are against us in the way that they are? In a vicious, horrible way. They are horrible to us. So my audience quite likes me seeing me being quite rude to them. They like that and appreciate that. Now, on the other hand, you could say, oh, no. You'd be far better off being like us. Yeah, in terms of my demeanour in debate, maybe. But in terms of winning, isn't that the primary focus? Shouldn't you be debunking the Earth curve edge horizon getting in the way of the sun? Because you didn't. Doesn't matter how polite you are if you lose. Oh, they lost, but weren't they polite about it?
They lost on the simplest point, too. I mean, Black Swan ends it right there. You lose on that, buddy, you better go back to school.
That's it. If you're in a discussion about flat Earth, to some audience members, mainly our opponents, it really matters how polite I am to them. Right? Appeal to format. Yeah, you might win that point. But who cares? Literally, who cares? All that matters is that the audience sees how you debunk the claim that the Earth's a sphere. If they don't get to see it, what's the point? They get to see flat Earth lose.
Have they forgotten how we were treated when we first arrived on this
That's
topic?
irrelevant. That's irrelevant to that, though.
Everybody
Yeah, but
here is
still.
treated as an individual, right? The moment they start rumpusing, they get the sharp end of my tongue. The moment they start intentionally trying to wind me up by repeating the thing that they've just had debunked and not accepting the thing that they've had debunk it, that's obviously going to piss me off, which ends up with elevated tempers on both sides, which will escalate in that way. That's how the discussion goes. We are but mere people in that regard. We are all the same in some ways in that regard. So that's how it just progresses. Now, if on the other hand the person comes in and is incredibly polite, like the guy who came and showed us that you can use a flat plane to develop a sphere, or any other model you like. It could be any shape, right? So, we don't really know. Excuse me, yeah, we do. You developed all of them from a flat plane model, including the sphere. So saying we don't know at the end and hoping for a draw doesn't mean you got a draw. It means that all of those models came from a flat plane. Now, did we shout at him? Did we get angry? We thanked him. Because what he showed in his honest way was how the models are all developed. You could have it a sphere, you could have it a dodecahedron, you can have it whatever you like. So long as you develop it from the flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the stars in a dome shape by way of your perspective view of them. Once you've got that information, which we do, you can develop any shape you like model. Now, he didn't receive the sharp end of anybody's tongue because he was perfectly conciliatory and hoping for a draw, hoping for a lose-lose or a win-win, depending on how you look at it. As long as the sphere Earth didn't, fail to the flat Earth, that's what he was hoping for. It did. Nobody shouted at anybody. Nobody got angry with anybody. He wasn't calling us fundies. We weren't calling him idiot. We thanked him. And I'm sure the same would be true of that Bryant guy if he came here. All right, lay out your claim once, and then sit back and watch it get ripped to shreds by skilled and experienced flat earthers who understand your nonsense and how it's wrong. Hopefully at the end of us disseminating to you how wrong you are about your nonsense, you'll say thank you for the correction that we've offered you, sparing you our time to correct you in your errors. Brent. That's what I would hope for. Now, if on the other hand he was in any way bullshit when we corrected him on his errors and demonstrated to him how he was wrong, then he might get the sharp end of my tongue. It just depends how they behave.
Yeah, but really, do you want a vicious win or a moronic, polite loss?
I would say 75% of the audience would say a vicious win. And, of that 75% of them, there's going to be 50% that say, no, I've got to minus off the vicious bit. Just the win will do. But all of them want the win. Very few of them would say, no, I'd rather just watch a polite debate where Flat Earth loses.
Yeah, and so the same people that want that calm, nice debate get into the subject, and then they contact you later and say, yeah, I understand why you get annoyed. Huh, like some people have done before.
Charles Flat Earth Math is a perfect example of the type of guy that claims to be neutral and even titled his show Civil Discussion when I went on it. Now, when he lied about needing an R value and saying he wouldn't require it, and I pointed out where, in his own words, he did require it, he started to talk through me and say, that's just an estimate. We can throw that estimate out if we want to. Through the top of me. In other words, not conceding his error and lie, but trying to justify it after it's been refuted through the top of the opponent refuting it. That's civil, according to him. No, he's a lying shit caught in a lie, and I'm the one pointing it out to him. And he doesn't like it, so he wants to shut that down. And he did shut it down. He muted me. After the fourth attempt of saying, no, you telling me that there's an R value in there, but it's just an estimate, doesn't change that you've used an R value. When you're saying you don't need it. You do. You're wrong. But on the fourth attempt to get him to concede, he starts muting me. Because why? Well, it's not reasonable that I allow him to say it's just an estimate, we can still throw it out when it's the basis of their claim when they beg the question. He's wrong. He's a liar. I prove that to him. Therefore, I'll be muted and talked through. Well, not reasonable. But I can show that even the guy with the title Civil Discussion will not concede and will shut down the opponent when they're embarrassed about how wrong they are.
Yeah, I've not seen many be civil about this topic. Like, because I did the whole McToon thing where the ball believer on the neutral platform, whatever they want to call it, got 25 minutes to preach and use a flat earth to try to prove a globe. I got 2 sentences to point out that he had used a flat earth measurement and a flat earth model before I was shut down.
And they have to. They have to stop that right away.
Well, that's the telling part, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, I don't see many people being on the fence about this subject. You know, maybe somebody new to the topic that's doubting that Earth's a sphere. That's as close as you get to on the fence, you know?
I want to invite Bryant on here, see if he'll come.
Well, yeah, we'll be nice and cordial to him. And we can even praise him on what he did well in his debate.
Yep. Gas him
mean-
up. Since you're 1-0, you want a shot at the title?
Yeah, point out to him that, you know, Dave Weiss, he used to send people here when he had problems dealing with the information they had. Maybe you want to step up to the big boys now. You already crushed the, you know, the jokers and pretenders or whatever you want to call them that claim to be leaders of this community. Now you can deal with the real questions.
Hey, my brother's eyes lit up.
I don't understand your context. Sorry, Neil. Deal with the. I don't understand who you're talking about and what big questions. Maybe you can expand on what you mean because I don't follow along.
Oh, I was addressing what Neil said. You might have been going about the Bryant guy. He said we should invite him on the show. And I said, yeah, we could even, you know, congratulate him on destroying nonsense. Because he did that well, you know, but he didn't answer any real questions and he never got posed with any real debating points. And if he wants to be, then he needs to come here.
That's his choice, and I get what you're saying. And from you guys' perspective, however that's phrased, yeah, you know, ask whoever you like, you know, ask away. I encourage it. But from my perspective, no, not at all. You know, very rarely will I contact somebody and ask them to come here. You know, there's been I can count them on one hand the amount of people I've reached out to and gone, do you want to come and discuss this topic? You know, Professor Dave was one. He declined. You know, like I say, I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember the other couple. But like I say, there's been I've very seldom ask people proactively to come here. Like it's a reactionary show with an open door. It's a bar. You can stroll in if you want to. If you don't like the look of the bar, you don't have to stroll in. But that's
right. But me and Neil are just patrons of the bar, and we were talking back and forth about inviting someone to come to the patronage.
Exactly. That's the words. That's the way to phrase it. Right. The bartender isn't out on the street corner screaming, "Come to my bar." He's in the bar serving drinks. That's me. You guys come to the bar, drink the drinks, like the atmosphere, and should you choose to go out and say to your next man, and this is me saying share the show, you know, then great. You know, tell next man how you love this bar.
Right.
Hold on. How would I say that, though? I'd say, you know, there's a lot of fun over there. There's a lot of guys that are real. It's a great atmosphere. Oh, no, it's not a great atmosphere. Atmosphere is a contradiction.
And then they get an idea what the bar's like. Yeah, exactly, Neil. My point is that I want it to be structured in such a way that says, we're in the minority, right? We're the ones that are deemed to be, you crazy idiots. Don't you know that? Blah, 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 therefore Earth's a sphere, right? Well, this is what the door's open for. We all sit around chit-chatting about the nature of reality in a general way, and then Normie, who's watching, comes along and goes, Don't they know that the horizon blocks boats and buildings in a measurable way, and wants to join and tell us that? Now, obviously, if you've already come by these parts, you're obviously aware, if you've watched long enough, that, like Brent, you might think twice about doing that if you've watched for a significant period of time, because there's a good chance that you'll have your claim taken apart. Now, let's say for the sake of argument that Brent was watching this and someone asked him, "Hey, Brent, they said you wouldn't go on because you knew you'd lose." You know what his answer would be? "No, I didn't go on because Nathan's rude to people." That's what he'd say. Right? Smart man. Why? Well, because you don't want to concede that you can't overcome the opponent's objections. Right? You want to say, "No, there's a different reason that I choose not to interact with them." Now, for that guy, there's no consequence. You don't like my attitude. That's all right. Yeah, you don't like the bar. You don't like the barman. Okay, don't come in the bar then. What's that? To next man, not necessarily Brent. Let's say, I don't know, McToon. Come to my bar. My bar's much more neutral. The tones on the wall are neutral, not the attitude of the patrons. But I've got a very neutral bar. Much nicer colours. So you should come to my... I'm serving drinks, dickhead. What do you mean I should come to your bar? Sit in front of your patrons and entertain them? No, thanks. No, but that's you being scared to come to my neutral bar. I've got my own bar. Piss off.
Yeah, that bar has watered down drinks. We have the real stuff in our bar.
Well, it's more about controlling the conversation, right? I can't think of one time that Nathan has muted a legitimate point. And if anybody can name one, I'd like for them to post it, you know?
Nope, never. That's what I tell people when they go on that little rant of theirs, how Nathan and his mute button. I say, I've been on there and I've never seen Nathan mute anybody that had a claim and was trying to support their claim.
Right. They always appeal to this ambiguous, ethereal proof that they will never repeat. They'll just keep it really vague and claim that Nathan somehow muted it, you know? And like they'll never like outline it to you because they can't. It doesn't exist.
But I obviously refute it on multiple occasions. The guy came in that was telling us to go to a neutral platform, shockingly, in a video I called "This Guy Who Scammed Me." And he's offering 10 grand, telling me to go to a neutral platform, right? The reason the 10 grand's being dangled is because, as I pointed out to him, I do this for commercial gain. Therefore, look, there's money to be made over here. Now, reading between the lines, I think what he was trying to position was that someone else, i.e. another YouTuber with a challenge, had 10 grand waiting for me. But he just never got to that because he wanted to also steal the credit of it being his idea and him that got me over there, and therefore he could, whatever his motivation was, right? But that guy said, "You'll never leave this platform," right? Made a claim to my audience that I would never leave. Now, the inference being that I don't ever leave this platform because I will never leave it. And you go, okay, I have. Here's an example. I've been to Charles Flat Earth Math. What did he do? He went, blah, 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 as I was telling him that he was incorrect and that I'd recently been to Flat Earth Math. That's Charles, the guy who muted me when I pointed out that he needs R and hasn't got a measurement for it, shut me down, tried to take control of the discussion by starting to ask me questions in the middle of me pointing out that there's a concessions required because he is incorrect about needing R when he hasn't got a measurement for it. The reason he's saying he doesn't need it is because he can't measure it. So those types of discussions will be shut down by the opponent when it reaches the point of concession that they don't want to give. That guy was no different. You haven't left, or you'll never leave this platform. Yeah, I have. Here's an example. Blah, 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 blah. Don't show me to be wrong. Right, I can shut him down. Yeah, I've got a mute button. The moment he starts to interrupt the flow of information whether he's incorrect and just wants to disturb the flow of information. Why? Well, because he's wrong. Much better that the audience only hears him going blah, 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 blah through the top of me. Or Rumpus, the same on Ballbusters. He came in, told us we were all idiots. We all sat casually listening to him poison the well for about a minute. And then, once he'd finished poisoning the well, I said, Rumpus is a liar. Here's an egg, blah, 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 straight through the top of me. It's their only trick. One-trick ponies.
Yeah, that was kind of rude, Nathan. You went on Flat Earth Math, that guy Charles's show, and you took it over. How dare you?
What, by pointing out how wrong he was? Holding him to task on his lies he was telling his audience, while his audience super chatted him about how he didn't need her, while he's telling me it's just an estimate. It's just an estimate we can use and do use and can't measure. Therefore, I'll just call it an estimate when I'm saying I don't need it. Yeah, his super chats are coming through thick and fast. Does Nathan understand when Charles says we can throw that out? What, throw out R? Yeah, that's our position as a flat earther, though, isn't it? You damn well need it, and Charles is lying about it because he's screwed because we've debunked it. He knows it, and I know it.
Yeah, but instead
Why would you be? Hold on a sec. Why would you be estimating something you don't need? That doesn't seem right, does it?
Yeah, just a contradiction. That was where he started muting me when I was pointing that out to him. Civil discussion, aka when I'm proven wrong, I'll mute the guest and start trying to take control of the questioning and asking the guests questions rather than conceding. Yeah, that's what Charles did while he waggled his little dick bottle that he had to give him comfort.
Yeah, but the thing is, instead of seeing it for what it is, you had people saying that you went on somebody else's show and you were rude. How dare you? Not the arguments, the conduct. Unbelievable.
Rude to him. I told him that he was lying about needing R, and then he was. Then I asked him how he got a measurement for it. The reason he was claiming it was an estimate and didn't need it, didn't need it, was because he can't measure it. So when I asked him for a measurement, he shifted uncomfortably. Yeah, that bottle he was holding was an adapter, as the body language guys would describe it. An adapter for the awkward position he's left himself in lying.
Yeah, you had him in a few awkward positions on that show.
I had him
Just
bent
look at his-
over, absolutely without question, on his own show while he muted me and tried to regain control, talk through me. Didn't work, even with him muting me. Did it? Still got held over a barrel by me. Neutral platform or otherwise, didn't make any difference. Neutral platform being my way of saying a completely biased, totally unfair towards me platform where I'll get shut down when I'm winning, as opposed to when I'm talking through the opponent, refuting my claim. If I did that once, there'd be 1,000 of examples of it all over YouTube. Someone comes in and starts making a claim about the Earth being a sphere, and I shut them down mid-claim, rumpus them, and just talked about Earth being flat, or tried to regain control of the discussion while he was making his claim to ask him a question. That would be splattered everywhere. The reality is they lay out their claim, we start to refute it, they start talking through me, so I shut them down. Oh, he's got a mute button. What? To stop them interrupting the rebuttal when they've already disseminated their claim and we're taking it apart? Literally, we're halfway through. But it's reached the point where the devastating conclusion comes that shows they're wrong. But at that point, they should be allowed, really, to talk straight through the host as the guest, because that's reasonable. No, it isn't. That's why I've got this show. So they can't do that. So that not every single flat earth rebuttal that refutes a globe earth claim gets shut down by a fundy saying how neutral they are.
Well, I noticed that Flat Earth Math in that video, because I went back and watched it after the scammer ordeal with the guy trying to bait you with money that didn't exist. But anyway, I went back and watched it, and Charles was really nervous acting. Is that what you're talking about when you say he was playing with his dick or whatever?
Yeah. When he was waggling his bottle, those are adapters, because he's shifting uncomfortably in his seat and pulling his grimace, trying to look like he's smiling.
Yeah, like you could almost see sweat starting to form on him.
Right.
Like you could see he was feeling the pressure of it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what's up? What's up?
Hello, Eli.
How you guys doing?
Not bad.
How's
Not
the
bad.
new question coming out, Eli?
I love it. Everybody I explain it to seems to understand. I don't know. QE seemed to have. Well, he asked me to post it in the chat. I did, and he hasn't been around, so I don't know what critique he has. But he seemed to have a critique, but I don't know if he really heard it. So,
Well, I'm going to say it now. Let's see if I'm right. Any evidence that level is equidistant from the center of a sphere Earth?
well, I say without this, I just say of Earth, and I'll let them say it's a sphere, and I'll let them beg the question, and then I'll ask them for evidence.
Is there any evidence that level is
Negative.
equidistant to the center of Earth?
Yeah,
Negative.
he said it's an adjective.
Level means
and I
no
was
parts
like,
higher.
Hold on, just 1 second, Jorge. Go ahead, Eli.
he said it was an adjective. He didn't understand. I don't know.
All right.
Right.
It's
I don't
implied though, Jorge? When Eli's right. As soon as you say at the center of Earth, right, equidistant to the center of Earth leaves them having to state what they claim is the central point and what shape it is. You don't have to. I think that's also very. You're on fire at the moment, Eli. That's ace. You're right. Doesn't need the sphere. Just needs any
Thank you.
evidence that level is equidistant to the center of Earth.
Yeah, let them say sphere, right? That's a dirty housekeeping question.
Well, thank you
Equidistant from the
guys. I
center
mean,
is
it's not. It's not.
It's a
It
circle,
was
isn't
a.
it?
It was a group effort by John Refracted Curvature, Brian, Adam. We talked extensively over the last few show days.
Cool. Very cool.
I
So
still
that-
remember the first
Coming
time he
from
asked
that
it.
conversation you had with Brian, right? We were going back and forth. That's where this thing was developed.
Yeah, when you were telling me I was wrong, Neil, remember?
Yeah, let's not get none of that got recorded. Nobody needs to know about the bitter, painful discussions and rumpusing that you two put in while Adam was trying to work out something on a different topic. We don't need to relive that. That I've just summarised
Well,
quite
I'll
beautifully.
relive
Wait a
it. 'Cause
second,
I was
hold on.
playing the devil's advocate when it was asked. Like I was playing the other side of
Yeah, but I was
attacking
coming.
the.
Sorry.
I was attacking what I thought was Elijah's claim, but he wasn't actually making. And then he asked that question, and all of a sudden I kind of felt dirty, and I was like, I don't know where to go with that.
Well, I wasn't there when he asked it, but I was swinging to your side, Eli, when I said, well, what the heck? What about a lake? I'm looking at a 3-mile lake, and that's all flat. So I wasn't totally against you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've said that. We got aerial views of New York City, and it's not like they're saying, "Oh, look, you're looking at 8 inches per mile squared of curvature." No, back in the day, they would say this is like slicing a part of the land off of an apple or an orange. So what you're looking at is flat, but after that, you're hitting the curvature of the Earth that you can no longer see, which is the geometric horizon in their mind. So it's ridiculous. You're seeing it's contradictory because on one hand you got 8 inches per mile squared, but on another hand, because of what we see, they explain it as flat.
Yep.
Yeah, their claim for the sphere gets ever more complicated in the anti-flat Earth realm, because once you've debunked their claim, they have to justify the debunking with something else, and then once that's been pulled apart, they have to keep weaving the web ever thinner. So you can only hope that somebody watching realizes how thin the lies get as they get further out.
Well, after the Black Swan, they had no positive claim. Everything now has become an argument from ignorance, basically. Everything they assert,
Correct. If we could Earth measure, then we'd have an R value that we can't ever see and will never see and only exists in the maths that we couldn't get if we could see it, but we can't. It's like you've ruined your own claim the moment you refracted the horizon, because that was your primary claim. Nobody realised that was their primary claim, because whenever it's talked about as the horizon. Like with the discussion with Jaron and Dave Weiss and that guy, Brent, right? They keep referring to it as the horizon. It's like, call it what it is in their claim. It's Earth curve. Because then we're all very clear that Brent is saying there's a physical hill blocking this sun. Yeah? Stack that next to anti-flat Earth man saying, no, that's refracted. Tomorrow it might be behind the sun. It's like, so you're not proving that it is actually a physical hill blocking the sun then, because it might be in a different place. Physical hills don't do that. But that isn't their primary claim. Their primary claim is that it is a hill getting in the way of the sun. That's what they claim. It's only anti-flat earthers that say it's refracted, and as John just pointed out, it leaves them with no primary claim that the hill's getting in the way called Earth curve.
Yeah, just debunk the horizon. They had so many. They actually had 5 hours to do it, and they did.
So I have someone here with me that may or may not over the live. That's why I say may or may not, because she says she's not ready. But if she is, like, because I've been talking about, trying to get new perspectives, because everyone loves something new. I'm thinking the audience would appreciate that, is to hear from individuals that haven't been in the conversation for the last, 5 years, and I asked her to think of 3 good questions that she could ask. So perhaps she'll do it on the live, perhaps not. We'll see. Sorry for the ringing.
That would be good. Push her, Eli. Push her.
Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing about this now, isn't it? Because when the sphere goes out, a lot of the things we thought we knew go with it. Like, what are the stars? What is the sun? What is the moon? What is the universe? Like, how long has the Earth existed? There are questions now that are just thrown into chaos, is all I can say.
Enter the Flat Earth Gurus. Ladies and gentlemen, pick your guru. If you want to know what the sky is, you can go over here to Globebusters and they'll tell you what they think it is. Or you can go over here to the Globe guys, who they'll tell you what it is. They'll pull you back onto the sphere, telling you what the sky is. Or you can go back a few centuries, maybe open a few dusty old books, and they'll tell you what the sky is. It's up to you, Now you don't know. You need to find a guru, quick sharp, don't you? You need to be told what's what. Now, notice we're not telling you. Yeah, because we don't know. We know what it isn't, and we can disprove the claims of what they say it is. Be it a incoherent dielectric acceleration, gas go down, go boom, boom force, pulling all things to the centre of a flat Earth, or a downward bias in the form of a gravitational field that's actually not a force, bending of a pseudo-Ramonian force space-time. We can debunk all of it. What's that you say? Why is the sky blue? I don't know. Well, what is the sky? I don't know. How high is the sky? I don't know. I don't know those things. I can debunk their claims, though. But if you need a new guru, I can point you in the right direction.
I was reading this thing in Wired yesterday. Guys talking about 2 different models, the heliocentric model and the geocentric model. It's very interesting. They actually say, do we just have to rely on what the textbooks tell us? He says there's 3 ways you can prove that it's a heliocentric model is correct.
And they were?
Do they all involve looking up?
Yeah, they do. Every one of them. It's funny. I'm going to get it together and bring it tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Yeah, be good to see.
But I think a lot of that searching for a guru is being put back in that position of a child and the powerless feeling of not knowing, They're not seeing it for the good thing that it is, right? They're seeing it as a step back. And it kind of is, but it's a step back to a good place when you accept that we just don't know.
Got me confused there. How is it a step back when everything is brand new?
Okay, Neil, imagine you're you've just decided to do a course in something. Let's say it's electronics. So you pay your £1,000, you go to the course, you sit down, you do the course. You keep it up for a couple of months, maybe even a year, right? And you're getting towards the end of the course. And then while the lecturer's talking, you get a phone call, right? And you say to the lecturer, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to step out for a second, I'm just going to take this phone call. On the other end of the line, you've got somebody explaining to you in no uncertain terms why the education that you're getting from the guy you're getting it from is wrong and how it's wrong. Now, at that point, you've got to do one of two things. Accept that you've just wasted your time for a year, or try and relinquish that feeling of moving forward in the lesson that you had up until that moment. Which one's a step back and which one's a step forward? Now, reality would say that neither is a step forward, because if you go back into the class and carry on learning the nonsense that the guy's teaching, because I don't know, he's lied about his certification and he's colourblind, then you might put the wrong wire on the wrong connector. Yeah? But on the other hand, if you accept that you haven't learned anything, then you're technically, in your own mind, taking a step back from what you've learned. So now translate that to heliocentrism. If you've wandered through life understanding something, that hasn't had to you haven't had to exercise any concern towards that thing beyond what you were already told. You could accept it and move on. But the moment you're told, well, no, what you were under the misapprehension that you could just get on with life knowing that you knew it, you don't know anymore. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it is, therefore you might have to go back and start learning stuff again. That's a step backwards, isn't it? From seeming knowledge that you thought was correct to ignorance. It's a step backwards.
I guess for some it's like that. If you're using it for education and you become a astrophysicist like Neil deGrasse Tyson, yeah. But for a common guy like me, it's like, wow, everything's brand new. It doesn't affect me in that way.
Right, depends how much you've got invested. People think investment is money. Well, yeah, it is, but it's also time. Much more valuable. How much has somebody got invested into that college course that you're being told is wrong? If you've got 6 years under your belt and you're about to graduate, and the graduation has got a genuine certification that will open doors for you in a career, yeah? You've just been told it's all bollocks, but the system allows you to exercise that bollocks in the world and make quite a lot of money from it. And you're like, but I'm about to graduate. Surely it's what you will do is argue with, maybe what you do, argue with the guy on the phone telling you it's wrong. The guy's colourblind. He doesn't know which wires go onto which things. Like, literally, he hasn't got a clue. He's just making it up. Look, here's a YouTube video of him being called out on it and being shown blowing something up. And you go, yeah, but if I just carry on for 2 more weeks, I get the certificate hung on my wall and doors will open for me in jobs. You're like, yeah, but you might be blowing shit up. Yeah, but the doors will open and I'll still get paid. Look, everyone accepts that that's how it is.
Well, there's another side of that too, because where the pseudosciences have been clerically mislabeled as sciences, the people that actually went through like engineering fields that deal with they feel attacked, and like there's this feeling from, and that's I think what drew me to this subject and to kind of troll flat earthers initially, was that there's a sense of attack on what your livelihood is, and until I heard QE say that about not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that I really get it. There are some things we do know, but they.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Like, it's good to mention that people use the epistemology of the scientific method all the time in various industries. Did you know that in the Hibbler production, COVID-19, all of the professionals, right, the doctors, the guy who well, let me not go that into detail, but the doctors and the professionals and stuff, they often reference the scientific method by saying, in order to establish that something is causing something, you first want to find it in nature and isolate the cause. I was like, it's saying it all up and through there. Like, and and I'm just wondering in this Hibbler production how much of that was lost on people, because when I heard it, I was like, this is exactly what we talk about. You have these two sides. You have the people that are telling these people in authority what to do, and you have the people who are actually in the field saying, this is what real science, this is what the real data is, and they're telling us to go against that, and we don't understand why. So those people are fighting with us, just in a different kind of subset kind of deal. So a lot of people seem to agree that the scientific method is useful. And the only people that they're fighting against are those that want to go against the scientific method. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
I was getting ready to agree too. Like, and that was one of the reasons I believe I was fight. It's hard to look back and know why, but I did feel attacked by flat Earth in my job.
You were attacked by flat Earth.
That's not what he's saying.
I caught the tail part of it.
You want to qualify what you mean
Well,
by you felt like you were
um,
being attacked by the notion of flat Earth and therefore flat Earthers? Because I kind of understand what you mean.
Oh, okay. I got that.
yeah, I invested a lot of time into college, like, and I felt like flat Earth was an attack on. Well, it's an attack on the misunderstanding of what science is, I guess. It's hard to put into words. Sorry.
Good morning.
Morning.
You're putting it into words quite properly. See, what happens is you have all that education, all that teaching, which later you are going to call indoctrination, but not at the time you're getting it. Then somebody comes up with a flat earth argument that's solid, and it goes against all that teaching, which is now you see was indoctrination. But you don't see it that way until you look at the facts, just go through a method to prove to yourself which side is right. And so the ego gets in the way. Who are these flat earthers? My goodness, I went to college, I got these degrees, I got a master's, I'm an engineer, chemical, electrical, I've got degrees, and this kid's bagging my groceries. And he's telling me the earth is flat.
It sounds pompous, but yeah.
Yeah, we've been trained to only accept the word of authorities that have gone through college and have a PhD, and then they can tell you what the world is. So yeah, who's this little upstart telling me what the world is? Do you have a degree? That is the attitude of some. Because you're not in a position to tell me what's what. When QE pulled apart whatever that guy was he did on Ballbusters, I've forgotten his name already. But there's a guy in the background listening to this pseudoscience priest, just backing him for everything. And then saying to Anthony, how dare you challenge this guy? He's a priest.
Well, it's the same with evolution. It's everywhere. They've put it everywhere. There's absolutely no evidence for it. And everyone thinks they've proven it just because it's everywhere. And because the guy who told them was a priest, had education, had authority, was a magna cum laude, whatever, all these titles. And then later on, they run into an argument against evolution. And I said, wait a minute, how dare you make a monkey out of me?
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, 10th Man, Paul, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
As I was saying before you rudely started the show. Oh, hi. Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello.
2 o'clock, I'm punctual, what do you want? It's time to start the show.
No, you were 2 minutes early.
Right, let's get on with it. We're going to try out a new housekeeping question. So, as was the case with any evidence of an elevation angle measurement acquisition from a curved baseline or a curved adjacent as it started out, that's now incorporated into the housekeeping questions. And I think we're 99% there with the latest housekeeping question. And as we've got him on the panel, do you want to ask, Eli? I've got it all. I was all genned up to do it, but it should really be you that asks it for the first time at the beginning of the first show. So over to you, Eli.
Yeah, sure. Is there any evidence that level is equidistant from the center of Earth?
Is there any evidence that level is equidistant to the center of Earth?
Or is there any evidence against it?
That's the burden of proof reversal fallacy, isn't it?
No evidence of that. No.
Hold on. Arwin's question. Go ahead again, Arwin. Let's just think about what Arwin's saying.
Well, is there any evidence against it that it isn't what
Okay.
it is?
So level is an axiom, right? So it's not up to a claimant to prove that level is level. Level is what it is, but there's also an extraordinary claim in some definitions of level that is equidistant to the centre of Earth. Therefore, that becomes a positive claim, Arwin. Do you understand?
Eye level is the plane from which we derive
but still,
angles.
Like,
Oh, hold on,
any
John.
evidence against it?
Yeah, one more time, Arwin.
Oh, yeah. I get it. I mean, we have to presuppose as a baller, all that. But I mean, what is there specifically about it that is disproven or anything? I mean, why would we have to bring that up as proof? Why don't you prove that it isn't the case?
You answered your own question in the first statement. Yes, at the point of asking the question, do you want to repeat the first thing you said?
Sorry, I don't remember exactly
You
what
said,
it was.
yes, they have to beg the question and all that.
Oh, that, yeah.
Right. So is there any way beyond the axiom that you can prove that level is equidistant to the centre of Earth?
Well, if you'd realize that the horizon is actually the edge of the sphere, then we would have to infer that there would have to be a center to that sphere, and that would be the lead you need.
No, that would be you
Good.
justifying your paradigm, but not actually explaining how level is equidistant to the centre of a sphere. You've also begged the question twice. I'll just repeat, you didn't actually justify how level would be equidistant to the centre of Earth. You just begged the question twice, that's all you did.
What's the problem?
Well, that's not the problem. That's ideal. That's why it's going to be a housekeeping question. What else are you going to do? Do you feel a little bit dirty?
No. I mean, we've pretty much gotten used to as ballers that, yeah, begging the question is part of the procedures that you go through. Otherwise, what's the point?
Can I point out something to this? Because eye level is the baseline from which you will derive angles to the celestials, right?
Yes.
It runs right into another housekeeping question.
Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Locally
None
flat.
whatsoever.
It does run directly into
It's a
that housekeeping
horizontal plane.
question because the moment they suggest that they can explain, and they will beg the question and feel dirty as they do it, once you get to the next question, well, okay, so you're attempting. We haven't seen any yet. We'll see what comes of this, Eli. Well, I'm looking forward to the responses, but without preemptively suggesting any of the responses they might give. Once they've given a response, if they give a response, how are they then going to justify getting an elevation angle measurement?
Their only response is going to have to be producing an R value.
They'll need it.
That won't help.
But they'll need a flat
That
Earth
won't
to
help.
do
I
it. They've
need
just
to address
justified how.
something.
John's point is that, I assume, John's point is that once you've assumed that level's actually equidistant to the centre of a sphere Earth, I've got to add it in at this point, Eli. Well, then, when you come to actually measuring an angle, they're going to draw out level to get it from? Do you see where I'm going? Or John's going, more accurately.
I want to make a statement.
Oh, yeah, Baldwin. Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm kind of like a little bit offended by you suggesting that begging the question would make us feel dirty. I mean, like it's some kind of a prostitution action or something. It isn't. I mean, it's just like asking somebody, "Hey, do you have a dime for me? I really need to make a phone call." I mean, it's
That's
just
begging.
begging for a dime. I
That's
mean,
not-
it's not that dirty.
begging
Why
isn't
are
the
you
same
making,
as-
why are you stigmatizing begging the question so much?
That's because it's
Nathan,
totally
can I
different
ask
thing.
you?
Phone call
That's
has
begging.
not been a dime in a long
Hold
time.
on, let's just clarify. Right, there's a big distinction between smash the super chat to support this channel, aka that's e-begging, or I need a dime, brother. I've got to take a phone call or make a phone call. Right? By the way, Arwin, it's the 21st century. When did you last see a phone that you could put a coin in
Exactly.
of any description?
I'm trying to appeal to a very specific audience. You
An
have to
old
realize
audience.
that.
Right, me.
Can I,
Nathan,
I
there's a
can I ask him a
That's a-
question real quick?
yeah. But Nathan, there's a picture of Master D to prove your point. Go on, Eli.
Yeah. So begging the question isn't dirty. Well, let's call it what it is then. It's a logical fallacy. Like, can we define what begging the question is?
Assuming the outcome.
Very good.
That's wrong. That you
It's
shouldn't
not-
be doing that. Justify doing that.
You can't.
It's not wrong to beg the question if you know you're right.
Okay.
That's like a double whammy right there.
Well,
No, I
see,
think-
that's the interesting thing about this, right? If you prove or work off an axiom, or if you prove something and you build upon that knowledge, that's one thing. But to assume something's true just because you assume something is true is the problem that you're in.
Well, as a baller, I don't see that as a problem.
It's a big problem because you're going to take a standardized description, meaning, definition of a word, and give it a totally different meaning because you're begging the question.
All
Try
right,
and put
I
it into
just
something that's
needed,
a
as
financial
baller, I
detriment
just
for Arwin.
wanted
Okay.
to share my grievances that
Arwin.
I don't appreciate being called feeling dirty when I obviously don't begging the question.
Okay.
Well,
Let's just move past
the
your
pig-
feelings about feeling dirty.
the-
It's not the main point. Who cares? Right, but I just want to give an example. So, if you've got a car and I approach you as a salesman and say, right, you need to start paying us the silicon corrosion tax. Right? And you go, what are you talking about? You go, well, there's a certain amount of silicon used in in many products, and inside your car there's silicon, and that silicon corrodes, breaks down, and causes this, I don't know, pollution of some description, and therefore you need to pay me money. So based on my assumption, I'm going to beg the question that you've got silicon corrosion that causes this to happen, and therefore the solution to me assuming, begging the question that silicon corrosion is an issue and will cause environmental harm, I'm going to charge you for it. It doesn't matter, and I'm not going to feel in any way dirty that I'm assuming something as an outcome, i.e. the silicon corrosion environmental detrimental conclusion that I've automatically assumed. You just need to give me money. Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
You're not going to go to the picture
I've
and
had it up the whole
Master D.
time.
Well, you didn't comment on it. I'm not looking at your screen.
One of the slides. This is the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth curve calculation. It shows the horizon. It's geometric. It's marked with an X, labelled horizon, and is claimed to be a bulge, blocking your view of things hidden by that physical geometric limitation called Earth curve, claimed to be the horizon. You'll notice, as John points out, that there's a dotted line labelled surface level. Over to you, John.
I was about to say, all this takes place below surface level, apparently.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not the picture I just sent you in Master D.
Oh. Okay. What was the picture you sent me then? Because it's got 10th Man Rising above it.
Interesting. The one I sent you is the one I see in there, and it's not that one.
That's the most recent thing I've got from you. That's what you sent me.
Wow. Well, let me
Eli's
just see what's
before
happening.
saying, I wasn't wrong, I was right. Oh, it's Brian talking to Eli. Oh, they're still arguing.
It's right.
I'll just scratch that, pretend I'll edit it out. I won't.
Yeah, it's right after.
Any other picture?
Wait, what?
Nothing.
It's like,
Nothing.
oh boy, it's right after Elijah. I wasn't wrong. I was right.
Yeah, that's the picture I had up.
Interesting.
Wait a minute, what? Okay. All right, I'll do some.
Look, just as long as Brian doesn't mind me showing his remark, that's how it appears to me. You can see it on the live stream if you want to see how it comes through.
All right, so the surface level gets no comment that John's trying to point out.
That's it. He said it.
No, he said eye level. That's the bubble sextant is the eye level. Until you do height of eye correction, you're not putting your eye on the surface. That's why that's a double killer, because they'll agree that the spirit level is level, to point out Eli's strong axiom here. And that goes to infinity, that eye line spirit level at the eye line. But then when you put down the bubble sextant and pick up a mariner sextant, and now you're using the sea horizon, you got to bring your eye to the level of the sea in the height of eye correction, which gives you the same outcome as the one with the bubble, meaning they're parallel. So if the one is infinite level and you're using the horizon in the second method, that's got to be level as well. End the story.
Right. But the horizon in there begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator in Muppet Vision as displayed here, has a horizon that we are told we cannot see and only exists in the maths that's below surface level. Obviously, we need the surface level because we couldn't derive the calculations to get R or anything else that they use a flat Earth for, including mapping all of the stars on a flat plane to then derive a sphere model from. So you need surface level, obviously, but this horizon doesn't exist. We've been told on plenty of occasions by ballers that this horizon, claimed to be Earth curve, blocking things in the distance, calculable in this maths, we will never see. That's the geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. We will never see it. It doesn't exist.
No. Let's give it a little bit more meat on that bone. All Al Baruni had to do, if that story is true, is go up higher in elevation. And he sees further on the plane, which is surface level. And then because he sees further on the plane, he gets the depression angle. And then they make up the sphere and put horizon geometric mark with an X.
Right, but the depression angle is merely what John describes when he says the depression angle between surface level and the eye level. As you've got it on this diagram, it's marked with 2 dotted lines. It even says it on it, eye level and surface level, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's where you derive everything. John's right. The differential between those 2 parallel lines is what's calculated into the curve, and all you're seeing is the opening up of the angle as you raise an elevation, described as a physical limitation that's dropping away from you below surface level.
Yeah, because that dingleberry, or part of that dingleberry, the curved surface, and where they got distance and bulge and hidden visible, none of that is there. Nothing under that bottom dotted surface level exists.
Correct. It's all dingleberry. What you actually use and measure is the surface level. That's how you
Then,
navigate.
then they take what they do, which is what you're seeing, surface level and eye level. Then they take that and say, oh, all the measurements in the nautical almanac are from the equatorial plane. So we're back to another plane that doesn't exist in the middle of a sphere. So they take what they do in reality on top, of course, Earth, but on top of their dingleberry, and move it to the center in order to get an angle, because they can't get an angle from a baseline.
That's what I was going to say. So it's all being done on top. What they're saying is being done from the center.
Right, which is why the now new introduction of the housekeeping question in regards to them justifying level as equidistant to the centre of Earth, when their angles come from level, for them to be angles at all. So, you know, in every way, shape or form, that question leaves them screwed, especially when followed up with the elevation angle question.
Wow.
I agree.
Where does that?
Yeah, because as Brian points out, what they've been asserting is that level is curving, right? But eye level is not. But if you define level as equidistant from the center of a sphere, you can't get an angle from that. So even if they try to answer it, they're going to run into another housekeeping question. And, well, how'd you measure an angle then?
Exactly. It's
Well,
defined in their model. Basically, if you look at what they've defined here, you've got the person, I, and then you've got them standing on the ground or on a mountain. It doesn't matter. But what do they define? I, level, dotted line, with another horizontal parallel line to it, defined as surface level. It's intrinsic to the maths. You need a flat plane to derive your angles for your sphere model. That's why we're not censored. That's why we're still here. We'll be downtrodden as much as humanly possible, but you can't eradicate flat Earth. It's intrinsic to your world. Now, when they say, well, level's equidistant to the sphere, show me that in your model. Because according to your model and intrinsic to it is the acquisition of angles from surface level. Now, that is a horizontal line. It's not bending equidistant to anything. Level is level. In both models, and by both models, I mean both sphere models. One that's a sphere that we never see, that has the heliocentric entirety as a part of a working model that we never get to see. And this, the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, that's very clearly got level in it. And it ain't bending around a sphere now, is it, lads? So what are you going to do? Beg the question of how it does move around and try and justify it in a weak-ass way while you beg the question? And then answer how you've got this level to derive your model from? Because those two things aren't going to play nicely together.
So you're saying flat Earth, they did not come up with a sphere? They needed a flat Earth to make their sphere?
Yes, Neil. That's correct. In order to claim you are on a sphere, you first need to measure the flat Earth you're actually standing on.
In other words, I am your father.
Yeah.
Nathan, can you please read Eli's question again?
Any evidence that level is equidistant to the center of Earth?
Okay. Now, if you look at this picture after you read that, you'd have to get rid of the surface level dotted line, completely not have it in the image, and you're left with eye level. Now, how does that eye level work out with that curved surface? Reading that question, it doesn't.
Game
Share
over,
this show.
man.
Just typically I say share the show anyway, but this is an unusual a turn of events in terms of us having a new housekeeping question. You know, that's as big a deal as having a fundy to debate with a new proposition of sphere Earth proof. This is an annihilation. This is something that Bev's been arguing about for quite some time. Well, on screen now is the answer that will shut them up for the rest of time, Bev, if you want to see it. They need level to be level for their model.
Right. And you know, one of the things is the Bev makes the assertion past what he needs to in his axiom. And then they respond in the way to say that level is equidistant from the center of the sphere. That's why Elijah's housekeeping question is it's putting the onus of their positive claim on them.
Brilliant.
Share the show. You know,
Well,
like I say, I've said it a few times previous. If you want to be able to disseminate the facts of your world to next man, next woman, friends, family, people who should be watching this show need to be told that they should be watching the show to get that information. You're hearing it here first.
It also destroys their argument of locally flat. In the locally flat, come back, they have a disco ball Earth with little squares on it, which Brian has shown they need to do that for navigation in these little squares. But they all meet up. But when they meet up, they still stay flat in angle measurements. But in their world, they bend over a globe. Just think of a disco ball with a bunch of square mirrors on it. And so if the eye line, according to them, is level to infinity, then these locally flat arguments all disappear as well, because they're slow squares going over a sphere, and you lose surface level to match eye line level. So it's not parallel anymore. In fact, the only place it is parallel is in the imagination of a dingleberry equatorial plane, which doesn't exist. So they take surface level, move it to the equatorial plane, and say, see, it works if we move it there. Yeah, but you got surface level here with dotted line. No, we're not getting the measurement from a curve. We can't get an angle from a curve. We have to go to the equatorial plane. Yeah, but that's the surface level. You just moved it down in the picture to a presupposed globe that doesn't exist.
Wow. We literally have killed the globe. Literally.
Let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's that?
All of that, you're going to ask for gravity? Haven't you been listening?
Well, if you can't explain gravity on a flat Earth, then that means Earth has to be a sphere, right?
Well, some people can explain gravity on a flat Earth. They can
Right.
explain it perfectly.
Yeah, the disk is accelerating up forever somewhere.
No,
Right.
coherent dielectric acceleration explains gravity perfectly.
Yeah, but if that were true in
no, it
lightning
doesn't.
storms,
No, it doesn't. It replaces it.
right? But if that was true in lightning storms, everything would float for a long period of time before the lightning strike. So,
Right.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Sorry, gas debunks this claim that we have a downward bias, regardless if you're going to claim that it's coming from a gravitational field that was replaced 107 years ago with the notion that mass attracts mass, therefore things move to the centre of Earth. Well, that's a claim that gas can debunk. And if you're going to claim that there's a downward bias holding us to the ground, as opposed to us displacing the air that we're in, then gas itself, the medium that we've displaced, does not go down. Quite the contrary. It's created a ground level and makes its way up. And it might cycle back down. If you look at water when gas, it makes its way up from ground level. That'll be, just to clarify, up and then comes back down as rain when it becomes more dense than the air. So that's based on its density. But in that process, you've got as much gas going up as more dense liquid coming down. It's a cycle. So that's
You
just as
can't
much
do
up
that.
as down.
Oh, nobody
You can't do
responded to
that.
my
I
question.
established, hold on a second, Arwen. I established a dichotomy between incoherent dielectric acceleration and a force of gravity. You can't introduce the idea like that dichotomy is wrong unless you give a third option.
I gave it.
I'm not giving a third option. I'm debunking
I did.
both claims. That's not offering a third option. I'm not saying the reason gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash is because of unicorn farts. That would be a third option making a false trichotomy. I'm not. I'm debunking both claims. They're both based on the premise that there's a downward bias. There isn't. Gas isn't going down. It's expanding into the volume it has available to it, unless it cycles back down when it comes more dense because of a phase change. That's going up. The gas goes up from the ground, not down 9.8 meters per second squared, not gravity, not incoherent dielectric acceleration, not in requirement of an explanation for its downward trajectory. It isn't going down. It's created at ground level and goes up. Don't believe me? Look up into the sky. Do you see a cloud? Is that going down 9.8 meters per second? Oh, what's that? I hear a fundy telling me that the gas around the cloud is going down, forcing the cloud up. So other gases are created in the sky and falling down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, like marbles poured into a fish tank? No. The gases in their entirety are created on the ground and then make their way up. Now, the higher you go, the thinner they get because they disperse. It's entropic law. But that doesn't alter the fact that they're not going down. So there's no need to explain a force that's making them go down when they're not doing that. Hence, I debunk
Can I
both
say
claims.
something, please?
I was told that only gas. Go ahead,
Right.
Owen.
So, yeah, I appreciate that Nathan opposes the anti-flat earther rhetoric, right? And yeah, it might be among some Globers as well. But I think that despite how ridiculous it is as a concept, that Einstein's response was actually kind of sensible on a mechanical level. He said that the Earth was accelerating up eternally. Now, of course, yeah, where is it doing that? Okay, let's bypass that and just see like what would happen if everything here, including the gas, would be accelerating up. Well, if it was domed, if it was enclosed, then that could result into what we know as relative density disequilibrium force distribution, right?
No.
If it was contained. If there was no container, then that would not happen. All the gas would simply just escape nonetheless. But if the entire realm was virtually accelerating up forever, then that might just, well, mathematically at least, result in the relative density disequilibrium force distribution.
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe you can establish the cause of that effect because you're talking about entropic distributions. Therefore, relative density disequilibrium, or equilibrium for that matter, is merely a description, a second-order description of entropy, which is an effect. So if you want to try and establish the cause of the effect beyond your speculation of domes flying up at 9.8 meters per second as described by Einstein, then it's just pie in the sky speculation. Just figure out the cause of it.
Yes.
Vary and manipulate that which you assume causes that effect. If you can force something up at 9.8 meters per second and overcome or relative density disequilibrium, then that might have something going for it that will lead you to actually vary something that causes the effect of entropy. I doubt it, because where do you find a neutral state of entropy to cause it to occur? It occurs always. That's why it's a law of nature. It's not like
Well,
you can say,
parabolic
I'll stop
downward
entropy
spike.
and then show how I vary X to cause entropy. I don't think you'll ever achieve that.
Well, you can't vary and manipulate the actual fact the actual effects in a stationary setting, but you can account for them by parabolic flights, right? And then neutralize this apparent influence. But
Right.
yeah, you can't actually like prove it within a physics setting, but mathematically it kind of works out. And Einstein's proposition in that, even though purely mathematical and unprovable, is actually one of the few suggestions that I've ever heard
Hold on.
that kind of does fit virtually with the relative density
Yeah,
mechanism.
we got that. We got that the first
Not
time.
bad.
Hold on. You said that it reverses the effects in a parabolic maneuver. So you're saying that gas that was formerly expanding in all directions starts retreating back to its origins when you go
No.
into a parabolic maneuver?
No,
Well, then
No.
it's not reversing the effects of entropy in the slightest.
correct. That's
Well,
not what I
what
was
you
saying,
imply.
though.
What do you mean
That's
correct?
not what I was claiming.
Yes, that's what you implied, but is wrong.
No, but if it's enclosed, then you can basically counter the forces of relative density temporarily, but not literally very manipulated, because you can't do that in a
Right,
stationary
that's what you said the first
setting.
time. Then I gave you an example of something that should be reversed if that's true. You said no. So what are you talking about?
In a parabolic flight, if you take like the density tower with the oil and the water and all the other stuff, it will not, as long as you go in the parabolic flights, arrange itself according to the density layers. It will just kind of free float. It will do that. So it
But
does
how is that
appear
reversing
to
entropy?
negate the effect of
You
relative
took
density.
the words out of my mouth, John. Do you want to just say it again?
How is that reversing entropy, though? Because you're claiming a cause for a second order effect of entropy.
I did not use the word entropy.
I
That's
did.
something that Nathan brought up legitimately, but it's not involved in what I'm talking about.
No, it is. If you're trying to
Entropy is
establish the
not
cause of
involved.
it, yes, it is.
It's not directly, of course, it involves everything, but it is not a part of the mechanics that I'm trying to describe. Right? But just for the record, this is not a scientific evidence of gravity,
Nobody
okay?
said it was. It
Well, I
becomes.
was going to ask, what was the
No, no,
It's
no,
an
no.
approximation.
I get you're not saying it's scientific evidence of gravity, but what I am saying is it could be. I'm only fighting this cause on your behalf because it was the only, literally the only input I had when much more intelligent people discussed this for me to summarise it as second order entropic effect. That's not my input. That was Adam and QE and others discussing it that came to that conclusion while I just sat back and listened. But my question at the end was, okay, if this is a second order entropic effect, then there's no reason why we couldn't establish the cause of it. Now, I was just laughed at. Like, yeah, good luck proving the cause of a law of nature. I'm like, yeah, but there's no reason why not, right? Now, after saying it about
Yeah,
five times, it was eventually conceded that, yeah, okay, theoretically speaking, in the colloquial sense, there's no reason why you can't try to establish the cause of an entropic effect. But by the same token, it occurs always. So it's not like, well,
How you gonna,
go on.
how you gonna do that though?
Wait, no, hold on. You're going to control something that happens always. Doesn't that sound a bit silly?
That's what I'm saying. How you
Well,
gonna
it
do that?
depends on how you're going to do it, right? I mean, if you accelerate in a car at a constant rate, you will find that everything within the enclosed car, it has to be enclosed, gases, liquids, everything is going to have a density disequilibrium redistribution. The apparent axis of distribution will be changed. It will become diagonal at a very consistent rate. Helium balloons will bounce slightly forward and upward, and heavier things or liquids will
won't.
be
Stop.
pushed backward
Wrong.
in relation to gas.
No, they will not.
Right?
No.
Yeah, I will.
No, stop. No, they won't. Because what you are describing is relative to the reference point you're going to describe. Camera inside the plane, camera outside the plane. Very different points of view in terms of which directionality you ascribe to the target you are observing. In this case, a balloon let go in a parabolic maneuver of a plane outside.
I was talking about a car.
Nearly there. With an outside observer, it'll go in that direction.
You're straw manning me. I was
No, I'm not.
talking about a car
I'm not
who
straw manning
moves
you.
horizontally.
You're saying I can observe an effect of a direction change, a vector change. And my response, my rebuttal is, that's relative though, isn't it, to the observation point? Internally, you can describe that as accurately as you just did. I only have to change the point of reference to externally to the plane, and it completely eradicates your direction claim. It changes the vector relative to the person observing. Therefore, as is the case, directionality is relative. So you can't claim that causally.
Okay, that's a very good point, actually. But still, it cannot be ignored that even from somebody that's just standing outside by the road, the car that's racing by at an accelerated fashion, to them, as they see it flashing by, the balloon will still sit in the front of the cabin, right? As there's because, yeah, it's still distributing that way, even though, yeah. This is getting very complicated, but I hope you understand what I
can't
mean.
do it.
I mean,
You can't
there
do
is
it.
an
No, I
apparent
That
axis
balloon.
change.
Yeah, let's carry on with your example. No worries. Yeah, that balloon to the observer on the crossroads, watching the guy who's let a helium balloon go and whizzed past. It's still going from left to right. I'm going to use even more ambiguous directionality. Right? It's going left to right. The balloon's not going backwards or forwards. It's going left.
Yeah. This is
Well, and
just
further to
semantics at
that,
this point.
and further to that, you're going to have to invoke an observation point outside of Earth and the air we breathe to even equivocate this to what's actually going on.
Quick shout out to Godzilla37. It says, all horizontals are parallel is making all globe arguments start to smell. My best poetry, which is why I'm not a poet. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Godzilla37. Really appreciate the support.
Right. But what I'm
This
doing
back
now,
and forth.
basically, hold on, sorry, I'll let you after this. But before the record, I'm basically reiterating the arguments that I originally had for what I thought was gravity in the times where I went up against Tony with this. I'm just now in the knowledge, like there is something there, and that's it, right? I'm not making a claim about it. It's not gravity, at least. There's definitely no gas going down, go boom, boom. But yeah, the more time has passed, the more it just seems to me that Einstein's concept, even though not literal, does kind of address the relative density axis. It kind of does.
No, it doesn't.
The globe's claim of gravity. What is that?
Well, I
supposed
gave
to
you
be
an
doing?
example. If you take a
No,
body,
keep it.
Hey,
No, hang
Ah,
on.
you asked
You were
me.
talking.
You asked him to
I'm
rinse
not
and
done.
repeat. What do you want? You literally just asked him to rinse and repeat.
I'm trying to qualify the question I'm asking, and he jumped right at it before the qualification.
What, he took his opening
So-
when he saw it? He's ballweed. What do you want?
Well, that's why I'm stopping. him.
Neil asked me a question, how, and I wanted to say, but go
I'm
ahead.
asking the group. I'm asking the whole group. All right. The claim of gravity, when first heard by everyone, pretty much goes. This is what's keeping us on this earth as it's spinning through the void of space. And if we didn't have it, the water, anything that's not attached would be flying off. That was the claim of gravity. You guys went into a car, into a plane, fine. Let's go back to what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be mass attracting mass. Is it that anymore?
No.
Okay, so what
No.
is it? Is it the bending of space-time now?
Yes.
No, it's relative density, this equilibrium force. That's what's going on. But
No,
I'm just
that's
speculating.
not what they
What is
say.
it?
That's
What is
not what
that?
hang
Gravity is-
on. That's not. Show me a baller that tells me it's relative density, this equilibrium, and the end of gravity. Show me a baller that says that.
I think I've heard a baller say that once, but it might have been by accident.
All right, so then no gravity, just relative density, but based on the medium, no Earth spinning, no central force pulling everything towards it.
Definitely.
Okay.
No, that guy Bryant was keen on gravity. Come on. He didn't say it was relative density. He said it was
Did you say,
supposed to
hold on,
be.
did you say relative disequilibrium force? So the effect,
Yes.
second order effect of entropy is now the cause?
No.
Yeah, but the force is actually the thing that allows us to even perceive it exists, right? The relative density
force is the
disequilibrium
cause.
force.
A force is
What
the cause.
exists? What exists?
Displacement, like the relative density displacement.
Is that gravity?
No,
Okay.
but there is definitely a force there. It's just not gravity. It's relative density disequilibrium force.
So it's weight. It's weight. The actual meaning of gravity, weight, gravitas, which they hijack. It's just weight in the medium of air. And it's going to go what? Is it going to be held up because it's solid like a table? Or is air less dense and the more dense object goes down?
In
The
air.
second one.
It's relative to the
Yeah.
medium. That's why we say relative density.
Yeah, in air.
John, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I was just going to say, this is like the arguments that we have about this is one of the reasons that people give for not wanting to come to flat Earth, because we don't have answers. We just have questions, really. And it turns some people off.
What question? I wish I had asked now. When it comes to gravity, I don't have any questions. I debunk the notion that they claim as an effect that needs to be explaining with gravity, but that doesn't leave me with any questions.
Well, prior to that, they thought they had an answer for what causes entropy because they ignore what entropy is.
That's right.
But so now, what causes entropy is what we've come to in this discussion, and people don't like not knowing, and it this is what it is.
Okay.
Does
well,
the cause of
do you want
entropy only work on the globe?
Hold on. I don't know if you're asking rhetorically, but are you saying what's the cause of entropy in the heliocentric model? Because that's a much deeper question. It takes you back to the ontological primitives. Is that what you're asking?
That is part of it, but they, like I was saying in the pre-show, it's like you got all these answers, and going to flat Earth feels like a step back for them because all the answers they thought they had are wrong, and some people just don't want to face that.
Bent, got any more? If not, we'll move on.
No.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not gonna happen. Their fields are all presuppositional, so they might do it, but not within the field. That's impossible.
The hypothesis needs defining in the scientific method, and observing something would be the first step, a dependent variable. So do you mind finishing off what a hypothesis is, Nathan, in scientific method vernacular? And then if you observe something happening in nature, would it require a second step or more even?
Okay, a hypothesis is a scientific prediction, and it's a prediction or supposition of cause after you've observed an effect in nature. So that's a hypothesis, supposition of cause, aka a prediction, also known as a scientific prediction. So it supposes what you think causes the effect you are studying. You've already identified that the effect you're studying is your dependent variable. That's what you're trying to figure out the cause of. It's the thing you observe in nature, and 50% of your hypothesis. The other half is your supposed cause of that effect. Ergo, if A, the supposition of my presumed cause of this effect, then B, the effect. So a hypothesis is just supposition of cause and effect. It also has a null, which is the antithesis of that prediction. So if A, my supposition of cause of the effect I observed in nature, then B is an alternative hypothesis. Therefore, if proven correct, you've proven that your prediction was right. But also the null, if A, supposition of cause, then not the effect, i.e. you don't induce the effect when you vary what you think will cause it. That's a null hypothesis. So those two sit alongside each other in a scientific prediction, aka hypothesis, when contextualized in science. So if A, then B, and alongside it, if A, not B. There you go, there's a hypothesis. The thing that you have to do afterwards, as you asked, is actualize your hypothesis. That is to say, make it real. On paper, it's just a supposition, yet to be validated. So you take your presumed cause, vary it, and see if it causes what you've studied in nature. If it does, you put a tick next to your alternative hypothesis. If A, then B, tick, because I varied A and it caused B. That supposition proves true. You automatically disprove the null, because they can't simultaneously both be true. If A, not B, cannot be true if A causes B. It doesn't both cause and not cause B at the same time. That's impossible. Hence the empiricism. So you put a cross next to the null, a tick next to the alternative, and that's an experiment. In scientific vernacular, hypothesis actualization. Making the hypothesis a reality. Varying your presumed cause and seeing if it causes the effect. Now, obviously, most experiments done by real scientists are going to have a pretty good idea that what they're studying is going to be the outcome that they hope for based on past experience. Therefore, they're not just throwing out ideas and varying them and seeing if it causes the thing they're trying to study. They've got a pretty good idea before they start. Nevertheless, because of the method, they may well vary that which they assume causes their effect they are studying in nature, and it validates, that proves, the null. They vary A, it does not cause B. In that instance, you put a tick next to the null and ipso facto disprove the alternative, putting a cross next to it. Because A did not cause B, it can't also cause B at the same time. So therefore, only one outcome can be proven true in an experiment. Either you prove your supposition true, or you prove the alternative incorrect. So you either disprove your alternative or prove your alternative, ipso facto proving the null or disproving the null. Hope that's clear enough.
Well, read the question again with the supposed fields.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
So they observe stuff in the sky, but they can't go to the second step. So they make step one by saying, look, something naturally happening, a star doing something, blinking or whatever. And then they're stuck because they can't go do what?
They can't vary and manipulate that which they assume causes the effect. For example, bending geodesics in space-time, causing the curvature of light that we're perceiving. So, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. What you are is a pseudo-Riemannian for space-time bending in a mathematical construction that doesn't represent reality because we don't have fourth dimensions and you can't bend time. But that's what it is when I wonder what it is. Because I say so.
So just wrapping it up. So if I want to know what causes water to boil, and in my hypothesis I say heat, then I can vary the heat and I could see at what temperature at different elevations water would boil, and that'd be a successful scientific method.
And you don't need to even vary the temperature. That's a qualification that we arbitrarily ascribe with scale to the effect we're observing. All you have to do if you're trying to perform actual scientific method-based actualization of a hypothesis is cause the effect you're studying. If you're studying water boiling, inducing water boiling is the desired outcome when varying a cause of that which you're studying. So you're stumbling along the wherever it's very hot and has got hot springs, and you see a hot spring boiling, and you go, I wonder what caused that. Not, I wonder at what temperature that's happening. That's maths. What causes it to happen requires you to suppose the cause, you said heat, and then take some water that's not boiling. Unlike when you're trying to figure out the second order effect of entropy, in this instance, at this stage, the water isn't exhibiting the effect you're trying to induce when you vary something, in this case heat. If you apply heat and the water boils, you've varied your presumed cause and the effect has been induced. Therefore, you caused the effect you were studying. What temperature is irrelevant. That you might qualify if you choose to do so after the effect. But the reason you don't qualify it mathematically when you're trying to establish it in science is because cause and effect is all you are looking for. Ergo, if I say, well, how much acid content will cause it to boil? What pH acid will cause it to boil? No. When you're qualifying on a scale of pH, how much acid, it isn't going to be the thing that causes it to boil. Heating it will. So qualification in mathematical terms isn't even acquirable until you establish the cause. And to cause it, you just have to make it happen. Doesn't matter what temperature in this instance. Just does it boil? Then I cause the effect.
Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if I give them phenomena, because their description of that phenomena is one of the reasons that gravity has gotten away so long, is that they've claimed an effect that doesn't exist. And then they went on to detail the cause of that effect, which, letting them have the effects sometimes can be detrimental. So I would like for them to accurately describe the effect they're observing without using.
John, are you referencing if I have a heavy object in the medium of air and I let go, they're ascribing gravity to that? Is that what you're referencing?
Well, I'm referencing the fact that they're claiming a phenomenon called gravity, a downward bias that doesn't exist. If you let them have a downward bias, you can get into trouble in the argument. So as far as phenomena go, I don't know if I would give them that.
Well, no. If I hold a heavy object in the medium of air that's more dense than the air, it's going to go down. They ascribe it as gravity, and we say something else. So what is it that you're saying we're giving to them when we're saying, no, that's not the only answer. You just saw something go down, and immediately you formed a word called gravity, which has a bunch of other meanings to it.
What phenomenon are you saying?
Let's say I have a bowling ball and the medium that I'm holding it is air, and I let my fingers release the ball. Is it going to go down? Yes. And the baller, heliocentric, whoever, that's gravity. I say, no, the ball is heavier than the medium. Of course, it can't support it, so it goes down until it hits the earth, which is more dense than the ball, and now that's supporting it.
Right. You're describing what you see accurately. I'll agree to that. Is that how they describe it?
No.
Well, that's what I'm pointing at.
Well, that's what I'm saying too.
Okay, let me have a go, John. So rather than tense explanation, you've got the edge of a cliff, Wile E. Coyote style, and it just happens to break off and fall down. At which point, John's argument is to say that because you've seen something go down, you ascribe a phenomena of an always down bias that needs explaining for everything universally. It's like, by chance, just by chance, there was a child stood relatively close, nearly killed, in fact, from that falling rock from the top of the cliff. And it scared her so much she let go of a helium balloon. And the two passed by each other. Yeah? So what's that you say? We must explain the downward bias. What bias? There isn't one. But we're letting them beg the question that with a description of something occurring, that is an occurrence always, when it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So I challenge that they can even take the first step into the scientific method. But we are polite here, and I will allow them that.
I think what John's trying to say is it's not a phenomena until it's an observed phenomena. And if you're going to claim that it's a phenomena that you need to explain because it occurs always, then you need to see it occur always. If there's a bias downwards, then we need to see the bias downwards, as opposed to some things go down, some things go up, and some things that did go up go down in different mediums. That's very much not a phenomena when you've got different directionality to the claim when you're only asking why things go down. Shout out to James Mays, who says, let's just bring it up for the audience. FED, hello to the panel. QE, thank you very much for the super chat.
Yeah, now if you apply that to the heliocentric perversion of a flat Earth celestial sphere model, how can they describe anything happening on a sphere?
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Equator length.
Sorry, equator length. That'd be circumference.
Right.
Oh,
If you got a circumference, then you can also mathematically derive a radius.
For an equatorial flat plane.
Yeah.
But that's just the outside edge of the GP point of Polaris. That's the maximum extremity to the circle you would draw around Polaris. That's all it is. It's an area of equal elevation. That's all it is.
Right. And the stars are spinning around us like a globe, so it's very easy to imagine you're a globe underneath.
Is it?
And
Whoa.
yeah.
Is it? I didn't take that step in that last sentence.
What?
well, then you would
What
have
did
an
I
R
say?
value. Hang
You said
on.
it's very-
Read the question again.
You said it's very easy to assume that you're on a sphere when I've just described the equatorial plane. It must be a plane. We're going to be taking angles from it to stars. And described it as if you were at the bottom of it, it'd be you standing below Polaris and the maximum extremities of any man on the outside edge that could also see Polaris on that circle. So that's an area of equal elevation for Polaris. That's all that is.
Okay, well, you slipped by me. I kind of assumed it. You were talking about an airplane. I wasn't listening too carefully, so.
Okay. Someone wanted to get a word in. Who was that?
Yeah, it's from Polaris to the sun's 90 overhead that we call the equator. So from Polaris to the equator, that circle can be extended beyond the equator because you can see Polaris beyond the equator.
Read the
Okay.
question of R again, Nathan.
Any evidence of the R value?
Thank you. Well, that's what we're asking for, right? And it would have to be a sphere to have one. And it couldn't go past its limitation, like the black swan takes their claim that it is a sphere with a radius of 3959. And 1 foot observer height, don't miss it, every horizon distance can be no further. Let's make it clear. Every horizon distance can be no further. Well, that's how you prove the R value. But when the horizon distance is further, which is Earth curvature, the stuff that blocks the bottoms of boats and buildings, then where it's assigned based on the R value of 3959, then you don't live on a sphere with an R value of 3959. And then we have Mr. Sensible saying, well, at best, you've disproven the 3959, but we're still a sphere. Oh, yeah, well, at 10 miles, which the black swan picture shows the horizon much further than that, okay, it would be further than the moon, the radius from the center of a presupposed globe with an R value would be all the way to the moon. The surface of the Earth would be all the way to the moon, that radius straight line. Is this even plausible?
Minor correction. To the moon, presupposed in a heliocentric orbital motion with the Earth moving around the sun and the moon moving around the Earth. Then the radial value, if you calculated it with the maths to the sphere edge horizon they claim it to be beyond the oil rigs in the Black Swan, would be an Earth the size of the orbital presupposed motion of the moon around the Earth. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link and all that good stuff. And of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Of text just show up on the show tomorrow, and then boy did it go. So I think he got scared from coming to Nathan's show today.
Or was that Eli?
Sorry, nothing.
No, we were just talking, Nathan, that yesterday Phil Bell was challenging. It's a whole other video I was watching, and I put a nice little comment, good job, to the guy who did the video. And then Phil Bell, of course, trolls are hanging around everywhere, jumps in and says something. Well, then we started a little conversation, and I invite him to your show today. Well, let me just post it up, and then we'll talk about it. I'll be back.
But doesn't Phil B fit in with who we were talking about this morning, right? In the pre-show, like who does it hurt more? Like me, the world is brand new. Him, it's over.
Yep.
Well, I totally did non sequitur to whatever y'all talk about. I want to hear QE's take on the housekeeping question, because obviously, if there is opposition, I want there to be the strongest opposition to a point, so that if there's anything wrong with it, it's justified, and it's either it is what it is, or we do have a good housekeeping
He doesn't seem to be
question.
here, so
He's coming.
all right. But I still wanted to make a comeback to the whole a radius thing, right? You were all so smart in pointing out how, flat plane and all that. Yeah. But I just wanted to say that every circumference naturally has a radius. So, yeah, I still win. Equator line. It was admitted to be a circumference by you guys.
Funny.
Sorry, I just had to. Hello?
Yeah, we're listening to you, Arwin.
Okay, I was done.
Wondering why your mic's clipping, if it's my end that's causing that. Can you guys hear Arwin occasionally breaking up?
Only mentally.
You guys will hear it in because I can hear it on my monitor. You guys in Discord can definitely hear it, but I'm just checking if the guys in G Plus can hear it, because if it is my end, I need to correct something. Can anybody else?
Okay,
hear?
do you need to check it? I'll talk. Am I clipping? Is anything abnormal about my sound coming through right now?
No, it
Or
sounds
is it
fine now.
normal?
Now it's perfect. It's just occasionally it sounds like it's clipping, but just because you speak that you're clipping your mic, that's what it might be.
All right.
Anyway,
So Nathan, I'm in the process of sending you some slides. As soon as I get there, I'll let you know.
okie dokie.
I didn't expect every baller and anti-flat earther in this arena to take my advice of the best thing you could do is stay away from here.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you give them, because before you know it, they'll take it because they don't have any ideas of their own. Because they're all just used to just like burrowing around in mud and swamp water and all that. So they don't find a lot of ideas. We have a lot of ideas. And yeah, even though they oppose us, they will still take our ideas. So be careful what you advise them.
It is a bit telling, though, isn't it?
Very. I mean, but look, guys, we've been winning for quite a while now. And the thing about it, when you win that long, there's like a natural weird gaslighting effect that's going to happen. It's like it'll get surreal because you're just like, nah, come on. They gotta improve and like overcome their obstacles and then oppose us, right? And but no, they're gonna just dig deeper into their own delusion, and that's just really surreal, right? And it's like off-putting and creepy, and you don't really know like what am I doing here sometimes. Like all these people are just going more and more crazy around us. So yeah, winning is actually really difficult. It's more surreal and more testing on your principles. How are you gonna hold on through a winning position? It's actually more difficult than you think.
Nathan, I'm going to drop and rejoin. Something's wrong. I'll be back.
Yeah, but it's not really winning. It's just.
Yes, it is. We've won the technical arguments. We've won the technical arguments beyond belief, beyond our own belief, right? And so, but they're still going, and it's not going to stop. And that's going to create a certain situation that we now face from that technical winning position, right? The technicals have become secondary to the actual struggle.
There, can you hear Arwin distorting?
They don't give up.
Stop 1 second. Did you guys in G+ hear Arwin breaking up then?
I was hearing some feedback.
I don't hear him breaking up, but I'm not. Did you say G+ or Discord?
Yeah, G+.
Oh yeah, no, I don't hear him breaking up.
That's my end then. Okay, thanks.
What I'm saying, though, if someone asserts that a tree is actually a dog, and I can point out to them that it's actually a tree, it's not really an argument, right?
Depends on what you think a tree is.
Not really. But some people can make an argument out of anything.
Yeah, but everything isn't agree, disagree to have an argument over. You know what I mean?
Well, it can be. That's my point. Argued over. It's not constructive or has a point, but it can.
I'm sorry, I should have prefaced that with reasonably argued.
Oh, okay. Right.
So it's just like unreasonable arguments. Like even if people perceive you losing it, did you?
Well, I'll ask a question to top that. Does it really matter that much whether you actually win if there's too little people to actually perceive it? Right? A win truly becomes a win and has a growth response in the people when they get it. And so for a lot of anti-flat earthers, they remain on a certain level of stupid because the people that, look up to them actually still get that behavior. They're simulating a certain level of behavior that appeals to a lot of people that are very lost, right? And there's a lot of them out there. And so it functions for them. and they'll like it. They'll be like, "Oh, it's endearing." To those
Well,
people
see,
that
is that
don't get
it?
the arguments, but that
Well,
will then fall to their act.
because in that Rob Parks treatment video, that Norm guy was sitting there like absolutely backing everything he said, even to the point where Anthony proved Norm was wrong with authority, and citation, and like Norm was still backing Rob. Is that what you're talking about?
What I'm talking about specifically is that in reality, whether you are correct in the argumentation is actually secondary to how well what your message has been communicated and is accepted by the listener, which can be on a wide variety of talents and intelligence.
All right, Nathan, I got those slides up if we're done here.
Yeah, I've got the first one up. It's well done video and commentary at the top, right?
Yeah, so let me just go through them and then we can comment. So basically, the channel put out a good video, so I said, well done. And obviously, you get a comment. Now, those comments will come later. This is not in order. So 10 hours ago, he said crickets, meaning I didn't answer him. Well, I replied, see you on FED live show. This is to Phil Bell. Tomorrow, Phil. Please follow specific instructions that you were given earlier. Cowardly cricket statements won't cut it. Cheers. 5 hours ago. No, I have more self-respect than to subject myself to the unbelievable bad manners that Nathan foists on his guests. Surely you can answer my questions with the need for Nathan to hold your hand. Come on. You parade yourself as an expert in celestial navigation on FED show, even pointing out flaws in the text you purchase. Just answer some of the simple questions. Begin with which map that directly represents flat Earth do shipping companies and airlines use to complete the navigation process? Next slide. So this is 19 hours ago, so even before what I just read. The real flat Earth obviously must be represented by a map that truly and directly represents flat Earth. Navigation requires it, and shipping companies and airlines are navigating around Earth every day. Let me let my dog out. 18 hours. Phil Bell, you think you're clever, Phil. See you on FED debate show tomorrow, bright early then. Or just remain a chat skank troll, your choice. Destroy flat Earth arguments based on measurements with your ever elusive R value. Shouldn't be hard if it exists. I mean, everything is based on it being real. See you tomorrow live, Phil. Don't bother typing a response. Just show up and set us straight, pun intended. Then he left a series of comments for other people. We navigate with a Mercator globe projection map, complete with scales and instructions on how to interpret distances. What map do you use? Or, not a globe in your fantasy. Or, centrifugal force applies to any circular motion, even the bend in the road. Stop saying dumb stuff on the internet. Then came what I asked them not to do, the last two slides, a book. Let me take a breath and cough. If you even have an ounce of credibility or courage, read out my comment to the panel of FED while Brian is there. Explain how you get your latitude from elevation angle to Polaris and therefore the GP of Polaris at the North Pole without the North Pole being at the center of a flat Earth. And every latitude beyond that must therefore build your model for flat Earth. Therefore, by implication, you must have a model that you may well be ignorant of, but must exist for shipping companies and airlines to use for navigation. Maybe ask yourself, why are the same shipping companies and airlines pretending to use the globe Mercator projection, which is rectangular and cannot comport with your stated version of celestial navigation, where the North Pole is at the center of the Earth, I'm pretty sure even you can see the absurdity of flat Earth. With thousands of pounds you have allegedly spent on navigation books and sextant, why have you not figured this out already yourself? It is because you don't have the mental aptitude to understand what you read, or are you simply aiding and abetting Nathan's business of selling the flat Earth product, regardless of its veracity, so that he can derive an income? How do you benefit from helping Nathan sell this absurd product, otherwise known as flat Earth? And how does labeling yourself as a flat earther selling his snake oil enrich your life? How about displaying some courage and intellectual honesty for a change by asking hard questions about the viability of flat Earth? No. So let me comment before we go. Phil, you were afraid to come to today's show, but you were pretty courageous in chat, as you always are. So maybe you got the flu, maybe you're sick. So why don't you come on tomorrow's show? And why don't you take apart all our claims instead of sitting there in chat acting like a troll? And for your history lesson, Nathan does sometimes get crude, but it's usually because the other end got crude or kept talking or is completely talking while he's talking and destroying the channel's viewability.
I've got a reasonable amount of respect for Phil. So if you want some hold on, hello. I've got a reasonable amount of respect for Phil, right? Therefore, if Phil came on, I'd extend that respect to him.
Which I know you would. And, you know, I've had to, so to say, Nathan, I think you were a little hard on that guy before in the past, but it's usually because they triggered you because they violated something on the show, they did something else. And even then I'm asking you to be calm, but you have reasonable reason not to, but that's been discussed. All right, but that's not my point. The point is, Phil, when I started looking into celestial navigation, I started reading the books, I started really pouring time into it, and I realized you need an elevation angle. And I realized you need a vertex. And I realized that every time the globe needed it, they'd draw a dotted line. They had a tangent plane. They never could use the globe's surface for it, which is where the vertex is with the navigator with the sextant. So I realized immediately with the other pictures showing and definitely proving that all the measurements are not done from the surface of a curved sphere, but the equatorial plane of a dingleberry Earth that they put under the plane we live on and use that and say, well, we're getting all the measurements as if the navigator with the sextant was at the center of the Earth, by which he can use a plane, and a disk, a baseline. But it can never happen from a curved surface where it was supposed to be getting it from. And immediately I made two claims. And I've only still made two claims. I don't make any more claims. And these are the two claims. A sextant is an angle measuring device. And angles are two straight lines that meet at a common point called a vertex. That could never, ever, ever happen from a curved baseline, which your globe depicts. Those are my claims.
I'm glad we cleared all that up.
Sounds like Phil B's in pain to me.
When he sits in chat, he lies through his teeth. He never concedes any point. What's the Mercator map? What's a projection? How was the globe invented first and then made into a globe and then flattened out in maps? Because I don't see no globe on the boat. I see flat maps. I see maps of coastlines giving you everything so the boat doesn't hit rocks. I see flat maps. I don't see any globe maps on a boat. And the projection had to have come from elevation angles, which could only happen from a baseline, a flat plane. And then you make it into a globe and then project it into a Mercator map and say you got it from a globe. But you got your globe from a flat Earth, Phil. Gosh, is this guy that dense he doesn't get it?
Why are they specifically using the Mercator map? I mean, I understand all that, and all maps are flat and everything, but why the Mercator map? I mean, we know all maps are flat. Why are they persistent that the Mercator map is somehow proving a globe and not any other map? I don't understand what the point
That's the
is.
map. That's the map they
trying
use.
to work out how they're thinking. That's all.
I'm sorry. Did I cut you off?
No, I was just trying to work out where the head's coming from on that one.
Well, they use a Mercator map. In the books I read, that's the map they use as a flat map. But where'd they get that from? Well, from a globe projection. Okay, so then where'd they get that from? From elevation angles. That can't happen from a globe. I mean, it's over.
So since there's a little bit of dead space, so how would you rate the AE map? Is that an accurate map? Oh,
How do you mean? I mean, it works for what it does. It's an equidistant projection from the North Pole. So if you're working from the centre out for any of the directions, yeah, it works really well. It also works well for tracking the sun, if you exclude the fact that they fiddle with the time zones. So yeah, it's got its practical applications for sure.
okay. So when you hear the argument, or I hear the argument, that you can't use the AE map because that's just a globe projection map gained from elevation angles to Polaris, right? Is that?
Yeah, you've
Then
got it
that's
already.
a-
The origins of that globe projection have come from a flat Earth, because they've been using the celestial sphere model of a flat Earth and the elevation angle measurements to Polaris to derive their sphere world, to then make a flat map and call it a sphere projection. Well, it's a flat map derived from a sphere that was derived from a flat plane.
Well put. Yeah.
Let's add some salt and pepper to that. In the celestial sphere model that they still use, they put the sun in the middle. I'm sorry, they put the Earth in the middle, and all the luminaries are going around the Earth. So geocentrism rather than heliocentrism. And then they have to say something else, which totally destroys them. Not only does the celestial sphere model is being used for today's navigation purposes with a sextant, not only is the Earth in the middle and all the stars are moving around the Earth, but the Earth must be motionless for it to work. How much of an admission do you want from them? In their own description, it's telling you, we navigate a flat Earth, but we want you to believe we're on the globe that's spinning. But when it comes to navigation, we have to put the Earth in the middle, everything going around it, and the Earth can't be moving. It's over again. I mean, it's like when I asked the navigator why they do that, he said, because it's easier that way. Well, that's contradictory to the way you say it is. How can it be easier that way and work when it's the opposite of what you say our reality is?
Well, that killed the conversation, 10th.
Well, it's a strong point, and it destroys every argument they have, because I want them to go to celestial navigation. I want them to tell me everything about it. And I say, what do you have to assume for it to work? The Earth is in the center, everything goes around it, and the Earth is not moving. Okay, but besides that, we live on a globe that's spinning at It's become comical. The black swan destroys any sphere model. It should be over there. We don't have to do anything. We're not on a sphere. But it's not. They keep pushing and pushing. They go to all these other things. But you're not on a sphere, so why are you going to gravity? You're no longer on a sphere. Black swan destroyed it. It's not where it's supposed to be, your geometric limitation. Oh, so this is the correct, so it's going to match this 10-mile photo thing? Okay, so now the radius is all the way past the moon? The orbital motion of the moon is the edge of the, is the radius from the center all the way up there? That's not the way you show it in the pictures. Wouldn't that change the size of everything? The moon, the sun, 400 times? And I mean, the minute you destroy the sphere and the R value, everything falls apart for it being a sphere. Now they said, well, what is it then that we live on? Well, elevation angles to the luminaries tell us what we live on. Something that has a baseline, a plane, an irregular plane, I would say, because valleys and mountains. But it is a plane because you got to have zero be sea level. Well, zero at sea level from California coast to the coast of Japan is zero. It would have to be. Water at rest proves it. They use it in levels. The argument's over with those two arguments right there. Everything else, you're wasting your time. It's nice. It's fun. They make a fool of themselves, but those two kill everything they have.
Earlier in the live show, we were talking about the excuse that potentially Bryant would come up with. And then here we are in the after show with you detailing exactly that, but from Phil Bell.
Well, he likes to copy, you know. He does pay attention like that. He just doesn't really resolve the consequences of everything he mimics. So,
well, Nathan, you extended him a warm welcome. We'll see what he does.
I wouldn't go that far.
How far would you go?
I extend him a welcome, and if he's civil, I'll be civil.
Yes, that's a warm welcome. We still have to see how it works out. I mean, look, I wish you weren't crude at times. You know I do. But, you know, as a human being, when someone pushes your buttons, you're going to respond. And they push your buttons at times. So if Phil, do you hear this? If you come here and you're polite and you don't push buttons and you're civil, you'll get good treatment. You get all your questions answered. So we'll see you. We'll see you tomorrow.
no, he's gonna be full rumpus style throwing it in there. He will have bravado when he comes in here. He can't help it, right? I mean, this
we'll
is a
see.
man that just can never admit to a single mistake, even within his field. He's that petty. You know, I'm not going to point at him when he's making obvious ball-based thinking mistakes about reality, you know, because I'm used to that. But even when you then go into the presupposition, you know, oh, it's a ball, the outer space, gravity supposedly holding gas to the air, all that, you go all the way in there. Well, within that field, he still makes mistakes and then just doesn't admit to it ever. Like
Why let it? Why let it go that far?
He claimed that you can use radiology, that it has been used, radiology had been used to determine the age of the solar system, which is a preposterous claim, basically, even especially within the engineering field of how radiology works and all that. And he will just not admit to it, even though it's such a petty mistake, you know. And that's why he's banned on my channel now, because he just needs to learn to get over this. Every person is a human, even ballers. I mean, it's unrealistic to just go about in life expecting to never make mistakes. You gotta be a human being. You gotta be real. And he's gotta
Arwen,
learn his lesson.
Arwen, just like refractive curvature, what Ruhif and Mattoon said, I'll give everything to you. You can have it all. I just want to make 2 points. Let him make all the claims about radiology. Let him make all the claims. Great. I will come on your side.
Great though, because
Hang on. I'm in the middle of this. I'm in the middle of making a full context why it's great. Great, wonderful. I'll come on your side. I'll contribute to your channel. I'll be just like you. But you have to prove the R value, and you have to prove elevation angles can work from a curved baseline. If you do those 2 things, you got me. You got me.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Well, then all those other things are fruitless endeavors.
No, they're not. Because
Let me finish.
He's still a person. He's still a human being having a life, and I don't want to see it just go to shit for no reason.
That's a different.
To learn.
Arwen, you're coming from a different humanitarian point of view. I'm not coming from that point of view. I'm coming from the point of view of the argument itself. If I meet a baller like Phil Bell, which I probably will in real life, I'll say, I give it all to you, and I hope there's an audience around me. Look, everything he says about sphere Earth and space, I will follow him to the ends of the earth, as the saying goes. But first, he's got to prove 2 things. He'll turn his head in shame and walk away. It's fruitless to go into all those things that are predicated on the first 2 things, when the first 2 things are the killer of all those things.
Well, they'll rumpus the hell out of you, like they rumpus the hell out of John.
Well, then,
but there's only one thing. There's only one thing.
But then the audience, let me answer.
And that's that Phil Bell basically has a moment, an inner moment, and he realizes, like, yes, I want to go with the future. I want to matter. I want to use myself, be who I am, and continue on. But to do that, you got to admit that you make mistakes, because everybody does all the time. It's part of the human condition, and you got to get honest with that.
You can counsel him after I defeat him. You're bringing in a whole other argument after he's defeated to help the man cope with the reality that he was indoctrinated and lied to, and he's a purveyor of that until he realizes, man, why am I doing this? I can't even prove the premise of what I'm saying. Okay, that's for another day, Arwen.
You're right. You're totally right. I'm just making it personal because it's like an ongoing situation.
Go on, Neil.
Saying if Phil thinks all the science is on his side, he's in pain.
That's fine. And the quickest way to get out of pain is getting a dose of the right medicine. And that's what I'm suggesting. And Phil, if it's impossible for elevation angles to occur from a sphere, and the radius value doesn't show up where it's supposed to be on your sphere with the given claim from your side, not ours, it's your claim, it's a sphere with 3959. Take those 2 pills and all the pain will go away. Take these 2, call me in the morning.
Don't do that though. Just
it's simple.
Sit on it, take your time, take all the time you need, retract a bit from your constant interaction. So you're kind of forcing yourself to reflect on what you're feeling, what's actually going on inside. I know you're very capable, Phil Bell, of suppressing all that. I mean, you're a pretty capable boomer, like almost stereotype, but you're actually good at it. And I respected you while you were in my chat, but this obstacle, the minor thing, like even with the little details, this crazy vision that stems from old in your life, that you can just always be right no matter what, it has to stop. It's ridiculous. You got to realize every human being makes mistakes, and you are too, and that the world will actually respect you for recognizing and admitting to your mistakes. You got to move on.
There you have it, folks. Arwen's going to open up a Baldwin shelter for all ex-ballers to recuperate and move on. It's a 6-week course. We need contributions for food and sleeping arrangements.
Thank you for that. But yeah, in a way, I am. I mean,
Well,
it's
that's
all
fine.
about ascension. You know, ascension is about figuring out that you made a mistake and then basically turning things around. And that can be very difficult, but God has given us the talent and the will, you know, to
So
do
wait,
that.
at this place of Arwen's, is it going to be so big they all got to sit down? You know, because at those places you got to all sit in a group. It's going to be
Yeah.
Rumpus, Sylvie, Shannon.
Yeah,
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 perhaps.
they're all
Perhaps,
going to be
maybe.
they're all going to be there, and Arwen's going to be in front, and he's going to say, "These are the 12 steps of your recovery," and then he's going to go one by one, and behind them is murals and paintings of elevation angle measurements, and black swan pictures of many different
like that.
types, so that
I got
they're
the perfect guest speaker.
A
John
baller
will come in.
recovery clinic. I actually like that idea,
Yeah,
guys.
there you go. There you go.
Then
That's
Refracted Curve
really
come in, and he could give his testimony how he was a baller until he realized he didn't have the measurements.
Oh yeah, testimonies from everyone who's been converted at the center, because that's part of what they owe to Arwen for helping them. So they have to come back in and
BRC.
give their
BRC, Baller Recovery Center.
We'll start working on it, Arwen.
I will. This is actually a pretty good idea. I mean, really, it is. It's funny, but it's also pretty real. Thanks.
Start a 501c3 organization first, so it can be tax deductible.
No. I'm not going to engage in all that Freemason pre-construction shit. Thanks.
Hey,
You could start a
John.
YouTube channel about it. It'll be a
Hang
YouTube
on.
channel.
Yeah, make it a virtual room. John, would you go on this virtual YouTube room channel for Baller Recoveries and give your testimony? And what would it sound like?
You want me to be a counselor for them?
No, just be an evidence of someone who went through the course and came out knowing what reality is. What would you say?
You're hired, John. I mean, I know you got the talent. Yeah, I'd hire you on a second.
I don't know what to say to them that they haven't already.
I want to hear John's testimony. Make believe you're there right now. You're in a virtual room. You got Sonic, Rumpus, Philby, all of these clowns in a room, and you got to give your testimony.
Wow, that's a little overkill there, Neil, but I like it.
They're not going to listen anyway. Why would I give them testimony?
No. They're there for help. If they're there for a reason. So they want to help. Help them, John.
It just seems so far-fetched of an idea that they would ever accept that they were
John,
wrong.
John, it's virtual. It's make-believe. It's as if they are there. And finally, the black swan hit them. Finally, elevation angles hit them. And they're so dazed and confused. They need someone who was dazed and confused before, who is no longer dazed and confused, to tell them, don't worry, it's going to end up okay. This is the first feeling once you know you've been indoctrinated and lied to. And let me give you my testimony. And that would sound like what, John?
All right, guys, now that you understand that you need a flat plane to get elevation angles, that level is not equidistant from the center of a sphere. Now that you understand the basic concepts of reality, Don't go running and telling everybody and screaming at people. Just stay calm. Everything's okay. You can watch Star Wars again one day once you get past this. Just breathe in and out.
That was so heartfelt.
I'm loving it.
I don't feel any better at all.
Nathan, that was the best back and forth on Comedy Hour possibility, and serious if it actually happened. Come on, give it some
I
props.
want a refund. I'm going back to acupuncture.
Good times.
So I thought Humble H would be back in by now.
Well, if you're going back to acupuncture, Nathan, you're going to need a flat table for that.
Don't be a prick.
Oh, good one.
Nice
Good
one.
one.
Nice one. Sharp response, though. You should be more nicer, or I may not come back to your show because you're so crude.
But we need less of this.
It'll relieve the tension.
All right.
Is that the end?
Hey, does that actually work, acupuncture?
Yeah, this is the end. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!